High tension surrounding the threat of a Russian invasion of Ukraine sees a little bit of a break, but there is still plenty of tension. A federal court weighs in on mask mandates for schools in Iowa, and proposals in Illinois call for reinstating the death penalty for killing police officers and other public servants. We'll get to that this morning with Scott County Republican Party Vice Chair Rob Edel and Jake Lewis, Deputy Director for the Illinois Democratic Party. Great to see you both. We're going to get right to it. We'll start with Illinois in this case, and different proposals from Republican state lawmakers to reimpose the death penalty. The most comprehensive proposal that I've seen would impose the penalty against people convicted of killing police officers, firefighters, DCF workers, and other public service employees. Illinois got rid of the death penalty in 2011, and I've had conversations over the years with Democrats and Republicans who fall on both sides of this issue, and those personal opinions can change depending on the time. How much is this political posturing? What merit does the idea have? I'll start with you, Jake, because you're the Illinois person here.
Sure. Thanks, Jim. There is no doubt that we need to find ways to keep first responders safe. Absolutely agree with that. Unfortunately, I think this issue has been used as a little bit of a political football in recent years. The proposals that we're seeing these days are coming from folks who are also running for governor, and we saw this a few years back with former Governor Rauner, who proposed something similar as well. We absolutely cannot use the death penalty as a political football. That is inappropriate. It doesn't keep anybody safe. What we need to do is focus on how we keep all Illinoisans safe and how we keep our first responders safe. And that means taking steps to reduce gun violence. It means investing in anti-violence programs. It means stepping up law enforcement strategies. And that's what Illinois Democrats have done, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Rob, is this political, or is this the right way to approach this?
Well, I mean, honestly, it's not that new of a concept. It's actually a practice that's in place in at least 27 other states in some form. It's only applicable to first-degree cases where the perpetrator was found to have intent to cause harm and have no regard for human life. I tend to agree that I have doubts that the bill is going to be passed given the current makeup of the legislator. But honestly, anything that can be done to help reduce crime and to protect our police and first responders who risk their lives every day for our safety is a step in the right direction, in my opinion.
All right, let's get to the next topic here, because this week's federal appeals court ruling confused a few people. It was relating to mask mandates in Iowa schools and the state's ban on mandates, getting a lot of different interpretations. The court found an earlier injunction that enabled school districts to impose mask mandates was too broad, keeping the state's ban on mandates in place. But it also says districts can order mask wearing to accommodate students who need protection under the Americans with Disabilities Act and send it back to the lower court for another review. And we still don't have a final resolution here. How do school districts provide the protection for students under the ADA? And is the ultimate outcome of this case likely to have repercussions beyond Iowa? Rob?
Well, Jim, this topic hits home for me, as it does for many parents, as I have two young daughters who have been directly impacted by legislation around masks. Looking at the numbers don't lie. Even with the recent rise in positive tests, only 15% of children under the age of 18 test positive. Less than 1% of that group end up having a hospitalization, and overall less than 0.02% of positive tests resulted in death. That means children under the age of 18 have an 85% chance of not getting COVID at all, based on the current data. And if they do get it, they have a greater than 99% chance of not being hospitalized and a greater than 99.98% chance of not dying. Kids are 10 times more likely to get involved in a car accident than they are to die from COVID. The psychological and behavioral impact on our children is significant, especially when it's in the name of protecting them from something they aren't really that vulnerable to. At the end of the day, the majority of parents in Iowa and in this country agree that we want the freedom to choose to raise our children. To choose how to raise our children. I think parents should take time to do the research and be empowered to make the best decision for their children. And teachers should be able and given the option to focus their time and talent on educating our kids.
Jake, is the focus incorrect on schools in this case because children don't seem to have very severe symptoms?
Well, I think what's clear is that everybody wants to keep kids and teachers safe. And what we know works to combat COVID-19 are vaccines, our masks, our social distancing. These are proven strategies that work in keeping everybody safe. Here in Illinois, we have 84% of Illinoisans over the age of 12 who have at least received one shot, nearly 75% who are fully vaccinated. So we have to find ways to increase those numbers and make sure we keep everybody safe. I think it's unfortunate that we're seeing lawsuits like the one you mentioned, Jim, and others here in Illinois and around the country that are creating more instability for families and parents as they're trying to navigate this latest surge in the pandemic in general. I think what we need to do is focus on keeping kids safe, keeping kids safe in schools, and getting folks vaccinated so we can finally move past this pandemic.
All right, people agree they want to keep kids safe, but it's disagreeing on necessarily how to do it. All right, hint of optimism that an invasion of Ukraine by Russia might be avoided. Negotiators from both countries agreed to a permanent ceasefire on Wednesday. Russia had about 100,000 troops at the border with Ukraine, but since then, they're still adding more forces now, and raising concern Vladimir Putin would order an invasion and put someone in power aligned with the Kremlin. The United States threatens to impose tough sanctions against Russia to tie up the country's and Putin's finances. How confident are you that a ceasefire like this will hold, and what can be done to keep this from escalating any further? Jake, I know it's a complex question, but I'll start with you.
Yeah, well, look, Jim, I think first and foremost, I'm encouraged to see us have a president who is willing to stand up to Russia, who is willing to stand up to Vladimir Putin, as opposed to our last president who was way too close to Putin, to put it mildly. United States is, we're calling out disinformation when we see it. We're threatening sanctions that would be crippling to Putin and to top Russian officials. We are making preparations with our NATO allies to defend Ukraine and defend democracy. Obviously, our hope is that there is a diplomatic solution to this situation, but frankly, it's encouraging to see President Biden take a strong stand in standing up to Russia and to Putin.
Rob, sanctions enough? How do you think this can be done to keep Russia from escalating this any further?
I agree with some of the things that Jake said. I tended to have a disagreement about the former administration's approach, and I think the current administration is an example of a stark difference between a reactive approach to foreign policy as opposed to a proactive approach. You know, in Afghanistan, the Biden administration completely bungled the withdrawal of our troops. That failure has only diminished the trust our allies have in us and empowered our enemies. I do agree that putting sanctions on Russia would be a great step in the right direction. Senator Joni Ernst has come out very strongly for that from the state of Iowa. And the bottom line is we are now walking a fine line overseas, and I agree with Jake that I hope the U.S. can help lead this dispute between Russia and Ukraine to a peaceful resolution.
Are sanctions enough to keep Vladimir Putin in check, Rob? Do you think that can work?
I think it's the appropriate first step. I mean, I certainly hope that that's enough, but I think time will tell. I think that we've got to do something. We have to be as proactive as we can at this point in the game and try to hold the line.
All right, Jake Lewis, Robbie Dell, thank you both for the conversation. A good one this morning. Both of you be safe. That brings us to our question of the week. What do you think of the proposal in Illinois to reestablish the death penalty for people convicted of killing police officers, emergency workers, and other government employees on the job? Send your answer by email to fortherecord@WHBF.com or respond to this post on Facebook at the local 4 News WHBF TV page or on my page.